The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient stone walls of the palace, but inside the secure corridors, darkness was about to be exposed in the most shocking way possible. What started as a routine security check would uncover a betrayal so deep, so carefully orchestrated, that would shake the very foundations of trust within the royal household. When Prince William walked into his private office that Tuesday morning, he had no idea that every word he had spoken for months had been carefully recorded, analyzed, and potentially sold to the highest bidder. The discovery of a single, tiny device no bigger than a shirt button would trigger the largest security lockdown in palace history, expose a network of deception that reached into the heart of the royal staff, and reveal just how vulnerable even the most protected people in the world can be. This is the true story of how one small microphone nearly brought down centuries of royal security protocols, and how a prince's quick thinking prevented what could have been the biggest intelligence leak in modern royal history. Every conversation, every private moment, every classified discussion had been compromised, and the person responsible was someone they trusted completely. The hunt for the truth would lead through secret recordings, midnight interrogations, and discoveries so shocking that even experienced security chiefs would struggle to believe them. But before we dive into this incredible tale of espionage and betrayal, you need to understand that what you're about to read changed everything about how the royal family protects their most sensitive information. Get ready for a story that proves truth really is stranger than fiction. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came at exactly 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in March. Prince William had just finished his morning briefing with his private secretary when he noticed something odd about his desk lamp. The antique brass fixture, a gift from his grandmother, seemed slightly out of position. Most people wouldn't have noticed such a small detail, but years of security training had taught William to pay attention to even the smallest changes in his environment. Detective Inspector Sarah Mitchell from the Metropolitan Police's Royal Protection Unit was conducting her routine monthly sweep of the prince's private offices. She had been doing these security checks for over 8 years, and nothing ever seemed out of place. The royal household ran like clockwork, with every member of staff thoroughly vetted and monitored. But as she ran her electronic detection equipment over William's desk, a sharp beeping sound cut through the morning quiet. Sarah stopped immediately. The device in her hand was detecting an electronic signal where there shouldn't be one. She ran the scanner again, moving it slowly across the surface of the ornate wooden desk. The beeping grew louder near the base of the lamp. Her heart began to race as the implications of what she might have found started to sink in. Within minutes, Sarah had called for backup. Chief Inspector David Roberts, head of Royal Security Operations, arrived at the palace within 20 minutes, bringing with him a team of electronic surveillance experts. They sealed off William's office immediately, posting armed guards at every entrance while they began their investigation. The lamp was carefully dismantled piece by piece. Hidden inside the base, disguised as part of the electrical wiring, was a sophisticated listening device no bigger than a 5-pence coin. The tiny microphone was state-of-the-art technology, capable of picking up conversations from anywhere in the room and transmitting them wirelessly to a receiver up to half a mile away. Prince William was immediately briefed on the discovery. His face went pale as the security team explained what they had found. For months, possibly even years, every private conversation he had conducted in his office had been recorded. Discussions about family matters, state secrets, military operations, and personal relationships had all been compromised. The prince's first concern was for his family's safety. His wife, Catherine, and their children could have been put at risk if information about their daily routines and security arrangements had fallen into the wrong hands. William immediately authorized a complete lockdown of all royal residences, while security teams began the massive task of sweeping every room, every piece of furniture, and every electronic device for additional surveillance equipment. As news of the discovery spread through the palace staff, panic began to set in. Everyone realized that they were now suspects in what was clearly an inside job. The listening device had been professionally installed, requiring detailed knowledge of the palace layout, security procedures, and access to areas that were strictly off-limits to most staff members. Chief Inspector Roberts assembled his team in the palace's secure briefing room. Maps of the building were spread across large tables, and photographs of every staff member who had access to William's office were pinned to the walls. The investigation would be the most thorough internal security review in the palace's modern history. The first breakthrough came when the technical team analyzed the listening device itself. The serial numbers had been carefully removed, but sophisticated forensic techniques revealed that it was manufactured by a German company that specialized in professional surveillance equipment. This wasn't some amateur operation using store-bought electronics. Someone with serious resources and connections had orchestrated this infiltration. Meanwhile, William had to continue his royal duties while living with the knowledge that his privacy had been completely violated. Every meeting he attended, every phone call he made, had to be conducted with the assumption that other listening devices might still be active. The psychological pressure was enormous, but the prince maintained his composure in public while privately struggling with feelings of betrayal and vulnerability. The security team's investigation revealed that the listening device had been active for at least 6 months, possibly longer. During that time, William had held numerous sensitive meetings in his office. He had discussed upcoming royal visits, security arrangements for his family, private conversations with other members of the royal family, and confidential government briefings about national security matters. As the first day of the investigation drew to a close, one thing became crystal clear to everyone involved. This wasn't just a simple case of privacy invasion. Depending on who had access to the recorded conversations, this could represent a serious threat to national security. The hunt for the person responsible had officially become the palace's top priority, and no one would be above suspicion until the truth was uncovered. The evening briefing painted a disturbing picture. Initial analysis suggested that whoever planted the device had intimate knowledge of the palace's security rotations, knew exactly when William's office would be empty, and had the technical expertise to install professional-grade surveillance equipment without triggering any of the existing security systems. William went to bed that night knowing that someone he trusted, someone who worked alongside him every day, had been systematically violating his privacy for months. The investigation was just beginning, but already it was clear that the betrayal ran deeper than anyone had initially imagined. The next phase would involve interrogating everyone who had access to his office, and the results would shock even the most experienced security professionals. The second day of the investigation brought more disturbing discoveries. As security teams swept through every inch of the palace, they found 2 additional listening devices. One was hidden inside an ornate picture frame in the main reception area, where William often held informal meetings with visiting dignitaries. The other was cleverly concealed within the binding of a leather-bound guest book that sat on a side table in his private sitting room. Chief Inspector Roberts realized they were dealing with a sophisticated espionage operation that had been planned and executed over a considerable period of time. The placement of the devices showed detailed knowledge of William's daily routines, his preferred meeting locations, and the palace's security blind spots. Whoever was responsible had been watching and planning for months before making their move. The investigation team began conducting intensive interviews with every member of the palace staff who had access to the compromised areas. The list included housekeeping staff, security personnel, maintenance workers, private secretaries, and even senior royal advisors. Each interview was conducted in a secure room with audio and video recording equipment, and every person was required to provide detailed accounts of their movements and activities over the past 6 months. Margaret Thompson, the head housekeeper who had worked at the palace for 15 years, broke down in tears during her interview. The stress of being under suspicion was overwhelming for someone who had dedicated her entire career to serving the royal family. Her loyalty was unquestionable, but the security team couldn't afford to make assumptions about anyone. The technical analysis of the listening devices revealed even more concerning information. The equipment was configured to transmit data to a receiver located somewhere within a 3-mile radius of the palace. This meant that whoever was collecting the intercepted conversations was operating from a nearby location, possibly a rented apartment or office building that provided clear line-of-sight communication with the devices. Electronic surveillance specialists from MI5 were brought in to assist with tracking down the receiver. They set up monitoring stations around the palace perimeter and began scanning for the specific frequencies used by the listening devices. The search was complicated by the busy electronic environment of central London, with thousands of wireless signals competing for space on the radio spectrum. Prince William struggled to maintain his normal schedule while the investigation continued. Every conversation now had to be conducted in specially swept secure rooms, and his movements within the palace were restricted to areas that had been thoroughly checked and cleared. The psychological impact was significant, as the prince found himself constantly looking over his shoulder and questioning whether his words were being recorded. The breakthrough came on the third day when security cameras were finally analyzed in detail. Digital forensic experts had spent hours reviewing footage from the past 6 months, looking for any unusual activity or unauthorized personnel in sensitive areas. What they found was shocking in its simplicity and audacity. James Crawford, a maintenance electrician who had worked at the palace for 3 years, appeared on multiple camera feeds accessing areas where the listening devices were later discovered. The timestamps showed that he had been in William's office on several occasions when his work orders indicated he should have been elsewhere in the building. Crawford was a quiet, unremarkable man in his early 40s who lived alone in a small flat about 2 miles from the palace. His security clearance had been thoroughly checked when he was hired, and his background investigation had revealed nothing suspicious. He was exactly the kind of person who could move through the palace without attracting attention, which made him the perfect candidate for covert operations. When security teams raided Crawford's apartment, they discovered equipment worth over £50,000. Professional recording devices, radio transmitters, encrypted computer systems, and, most damning of all, hundreds of hours of recorded conversations from Prince William's office. The apartment had been converted into a sophisticated surveillance operations center, with multiple computer screens displaying real-time audio feeds from the palace. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Hidden in a locked filing cabinet were detailed photographs of the royal family's daily routines, security protocols, and travel schedules. There were floor plans of the palace with security cameras and alarm systems clearly marked. Most disturbing of all were photographs of William's children taken with telephoto lenses during their private time in the palace gardens. Crawford was arrested at his workplace later that afternoon as he attempted to continue his normal routine. His calm demeanor during the arrest surprised investigators, as if he had been expecting this moment and had already accepted the consequences of his actions. He was immediately taken to a secure facility for interrogation. During the first round of questioning, Crawford remained silent, refusing to answer even basic questions about his identity. Professional interrogators recognized the signs of someone who had received training in resisting questioning techniques. This wasn't some amateur operation motivated by curiosity or financial desperation. Crawford was clearly working for someone else, and his professional approach suggested connections to foreign intelligence services. The investigation expanded rapidly as counterintelligence experts tried to determine who Crawford was really working for and what information had already been compromised. The recordings found in his apartment contained discussions about upcoming royal visits, military briefings, and private conversations between William and other members of the royal family. If this information had been shared with hostile foreign powers, it could compromise ongoing security operations and put numerous people at risk. Technical analysis of Crawford's equipment revealed that he had been transmitting data to multiple overseas locations using encrypted internet connections. The sophisticated nature of his setup suggested substantial financial backing and technical support from his handlers. This wasn't just about gathering gossip about the royal family. Someone was conducting systematic intelligence gathering operations against one of Britain's most protected institutions. As the second phase of the investigation concluded, security officials realized they were dealing with a much larger problem than initially suspected. Crawford might have been the person who physically installed the devices, but he was clearly part of a larger network. The hunt for his contacts and handlers was just beginning, and the implications for national security were becoming more serious with each new discovery. The palace remained in lockdown as security teams worked around the clock to ensure that all surveillance equipment had been removed and that no other staff members were involved in the espionage operation. William and his family were moved to a secure location while their primary residence underwent the most thorough security review in its history. The interrogation of James Crawford stretched on for 5 days, conducted by Britain's most experienced counterintelligence officers. Initially, Crawford maintained his silence, but as evidence mounted against him, cracks began to appear in his composure. The breakthrough came when investigators presented him with financial records showing large cash deposits into multiple bank accounts under false names. The money trail led back to a series of shell companies with connections to Eastern European intelligence services. Crawford finally broke on the 6th day when confronted with evidence that his handlers had been planning to target William's children next. The thought that innocent children might be put in danger seemed to trigger whatever conscience he had left. In a series of recorded confessions that would later be used in court, Crawford revealed the full extent of the operation and his role in what had been a 3-year intelligence gathering mission. The electrician explained that he had been recruited during a financial crisis 3 years earlier when his mother required expensive medical treatment that the National Health Service couldn't provide quickly enough. Foreign agents had approached him with an offer that seemed too good to refuse, substantial payments in exchange for seemingly harmless information about palace operations. What started as providing floor plans and security schedules had gradually escalated into installing sophisticated surveillance equipment. Crawford's handlers had been patient and professional, slowly building trust and increasing his involvement in the operation. They had provided him with extensive training in surveillance techniques, electronic equipment installation, and counter-surveillance methods. The training had taken place during what Crawford believed were innocent weekend trips to European cities, where he thought he was attending technical seminars for his electrical work. The investigation revealed that the intelligence operation had been targeting multiple members of the royal family, not just Prince William. Crawford had been instructed to gather information about travel schedules, security arrangements, private conversations, and personal relationships. The ultimate goal appeared to be developing a comprehensive intelligence picture that could be used for blackmail, manipulation, or potentially more serious threats. Financial records showed that Crawford had received over £200,000 during his 3 years of espionage activities. The money had been paid through a complex network of overseas accounts, making it difficult to trace back to its original source. However, digital forensic analysis of his computer equipment revealed encrypted communication channels that led investigators to previously unknown foreign intelligence operatives working in London. The revelation that foreign agents had successfully penetrated palace security sent shockwaves through the British intelligence community. Emergency meetings were held at the highest levels of government as officials tried to assess the damage and prevent similar breaches in the future. The security protocols that had protected the royal family for decades were clearly insufficient against modern espionage techniques. Prince William was briefed on the full extent of Crawford's confession in a secure government facility. The prince learned that conversations about his marriage, his children's education, military briefings, and private discussions with his father and brother had all been recorded and potentially shared with foreign intelligence services. The violation of privacy was complete and devastating. The immediate priority was conducting a comprehensive damage assessment. Intelligence analysts worked around the clock to review the hundreds of hours of recorded conversations, identifying information that could pose ongoing security risks. Plans for upcoming royal visits had to be changed, security protocols were completely revised, and several ongoing operations had to be modified or canceled entirely. Crawford pleaded guilty to multiple charges including espionage, breach of official secrets, and conspiracy against the Crown. During his sentencing hearing, additional details emerged about the sophistication of the operation. His handlers had provided him with specialized equipment that was virtually undetectable by standard security sweeps. They had also given him detailed instructions on how to avoid security cameras and conduct his activities during shift changes when supervision was minimal. The trial revealed that Crawford's apartment had been under surveillance by his own handlers, ensuring that he couldn't betray the operation without putting himself at serious personal risk. He had been living under constant threat, knowing that his foreign contacts had detailed information about his daily routines and personal life. This psychological pressure had contributed to his decision to cooperate fully with British investigators once he was arrested. Crawford was sentenced to 22 years in prison for his crimes against the Crown and national security. The judge noted that while Crawford's initial motivation might have been financial desperation, his continued participation in the operation after understanding its full implications demonstrated a complete abandonment of his loyalty to his country and employer. The broader investigation led to the arrest of 6 other individuals connected to the espionage network. 3 foreign nationals were expelled from the country, 2 British citizens were charged with conspiracy, and 1 person was found to be operating under false identity documents. The network had been more extensive than initially suspected, with connections to similar operations targeting government officials and military personnel. In response to the security breach, the palace underwent the most comprehensive security upgrade in its history. New electronic detection systems were installed, staff vetting procedures were significantly enhanced, and access controls were completely redesigned. The cost of these improvements exceeded £10 million, but the investment was considered essential to prevent future infiltration attempts. Prince William and his family eventually returned to their residence, but the experience had changed them permanently. The prince became much more cautious about his communications, and the family's daily routines were significantly modified to reduce predictability. Additional security personnel were assigned to monitor all maintenance and service activities within the palace. The investigation also led to improvements in counterintelligence cooperation between British agencies and international partners. New protocols were established for sharing information about foreign espionage activities, and enhanced screening procedures were implemented for all individuals working in sensitive government and royal facilities. Crawford's confession provided valuable intelligence about foreign espionage techniques and objectives, helping security services better understand the threats facing Britain's most important institutions. His cooperation with investigators, while not reducing his sentence, contributed to the disruption of several other ongoing intelligence operations. The case served as a wake-up call for security professionals throughout the government. The assumption that thorough background checks and regular security reviews were sufficient to prevent infiltration had been proven wrong. Modern espionage operations required equally modern defensive measures, and the old methods of protecting sensitive facilities and personnel needed complete revision. 5 years later, the palace operates under significantly enhanced security protocols, and no similar breaches have been detected. The lessons learned from Crawford's espionage operation continue to influence security practices throughout the British government, serving as a reminder that even the most trusted individuals can be compromised under the right circumstances. Prince William has never spoken publicly about the details of the security breach, but those close to him report that the experience reinforced his understanding of the serious responsibilities that come with his position. The violation of his family's privacy was a personal trauma that took years to overcome, but it also strengthened his resolve to protect the institution of the monarchy and the security of the nation.